If you want to become an AI engineer, then watch this video because I'm going to save you months of time. And that's because there are hundreds of different AI engineering roadmaps out there. It feels like they're changing every single day, and they mention literally thousands of skills. And if you follow the wrong one, you could be spending months learning something that doesn't actually help you land a job. So in this video, I'm going to share with you a roadmap that I personally went through. One that I spent 20 hours learning, so I actually went through the topics, I did the projects, I did all of the exercises, and I can honestly recommend it because I've gone through it myself to test and verify the criteria. Now, it's not perfect, but it's one of the best ones that I've found, and I'm going to share with you an honest review here and go through it step by step. So even if you don't want to purchase this because it is a paid course that I'm going to talk about, you can at least follow the skills in the curriculum that are inside of this roadmap. And again, I know that it's a good roadmap because I actually went through it, spent over 20 hours doing it, and I feel like I've genuinely learned a lot, even though I'm already a pretty experienced AI engineer. Okay, so with that said, let's get into the video. Let me share with you the resource that I'm talking about. And I also want to discuss why you might want to become an AI engineer because it's a really hot topic in 2026. So first, let me just give you a quick primer on what an AI engineer actually does, because that's really going to dictate the roadmap that you'll want to follow. Now, AI engineering is a lot less about training machine learning models or doing, statistics and mathematics, and much more about actually applying things that have already been built. So now, especially in 2026, it means using pre-trained models. It means using LLMs. It means creating pipelines, using RAG, retrieval augmented generation, and deploying these applications into businesses or into companies where you're actually working. So when you're looking at roadmaps here, you want to look at things that are very practical, that are giving you a lot of projects, and that are teaching you, again, the implementation rather than all of the theory. You honestly don't really need to know any math at all to be an AI engineer. And again, what you're doing is you're using things that have already been created, like a Hugging Face model or an existing LLM, to actually create applications that deliver real value. Now, because of the practical nature of this role, this has quickly become one of the fastest growing jobs for software engineers. And it's one where we're actually seeing an increase in demand. We're seeing massive salaries. You have starting pay over $150,000 per year, whereas some of the other more traditional dev jobs are a little bit more stagnant or even declining. So anyways, that's a little bit about AI engineering. Now I want to dive into the roadmap. Now, full disclosure here, the roadmap that I'm going to share with you is a paid resource. You can access parts of it for free, so you can try it out, and of course you can view the entire curriculum, and it comes from a long-term partner of this channel, DataCamp. Now, I know immediately a lot of you are going to throw the red flags up in the air, and I completely understand, but what I want to mention just to get it out of the way is that I've been working with DataCamp now for 3+ years. I genuinely really enjoy a lot of their courses. I've gone through many of them myself, and I started using them well before they ever were a sponsor of this channel. So while yes, they do sponsor this channel, I do get paid from DataCamp. This is an honest review and recommendation of this course. Again, I went through it myself. You're going to see I've completed all of the different things. And while it's great and I'm recommending it, it's not perfect. And I'm also going to share with you the negatives of this course in this video. So anyways, you guys can judge it however you want, but this is one that, again, I genuinely do recommend. I went through myself, and there's a reason I partnered with DataCamp for a very long time on this channel. Okay, so first, let's just get the pricing right out of the way. Now, you don't have to pay for one individual course here. If you want to access this, what you'll need to do is pay for either a monthly or yearly subscription with DataCamp. You can see that if you have the basic subscription, which is free, you can access parts of the course. There's a few free modules that you can go through. And then if you upgrade to premium, which is the one that you would have as an individual, you can pay $13 per month to get access to all of the DataCamp courses, not just the one that I'm going to show you in this video. Okay, so that's the pricing, and I do have a discount link. I'll leave it in the description if you want to get 25% off any of the different courses. Again, you can access all of them. It's just a subscription that you pay for it, and you can cancel whenever you want. Okay, so the course that I personally went through here that's going to contain the roadmap we're going to have a look at is the Associate AI Engineer for Developers. Now, this is not designed for complete beginners, and it assumes that you have some Python fundamentals, you know a little bit about programming, and that you've built some things in the past. If you're an absolute complete beginner, there's some better tracks that you can go through. This is really meant for those of you that have the basics down, you know your core Python, and now you're looking to actually learn those kind of AI engineering skills. So I'm going to go through the curriculum here so you can see exactly what's inside of this course. It's actually 9 courses kind of combined in a track or roadmap, hence the title of this video. It has 3 projects, and it estimates that it would take you 26 hours to complete. For me, I was able to do it a little bit shorter because I'm already familiar with some of the concepts, but if you're a complete beginner in AI engineering, this is probably a pretty good estimate. Now, this also comes with a DataCamp certification for this course. I haven't done this one, but there is one that you can do that we'll look at later. And anyways, what I want to do is start going through the different topics. So the first thing that's included here is called working with the OpenAI API. Now what this does is show you how to actually send requests to OpenAI so that you can get responses back from the model. It talks about things like model selections, using the response API, different types of messages like user messages, assistant messages, system messages, and generally just shows you how you can actually interact with third-party LLMs, or again, like OpenAI API, and get responses back. Now I'll go through some individual modules in a second, but I believe this one is free that you can try out if you're just looking at this. Okay, next we have prompt engineering with OpenAI. Now from here, what this does is go through all of the different prompting strategies, talks about one-shot prompting, multi-shot prompting, giving examples, different ways that you can craft prompts to get better results, structured outputs. And honestly, this one for me actually taught me quite a bit about prompting that I didn't know, because it's very thorough and there's a ton of different exercises where you actually have to write your own prompts and pass the test cases that DataCamp has. Now after that, you immediately get into a project. This project is simply just triggering the OpenAI API, having multiple conversations, storing the previous conversations so that the model kind of has context, and then keeping track of like the number of tokens, the cost, all of that kind of stuff. Now after that, it moves to working with Hugging Face. Now again, guys, if you don't want to take this course, just follow these concepts on your own. You can learn this stuff for free. It's just not going to be in one place with the exercises. Okay, so Hugging Face. What is Hugging Face? Well, Hugging Face is actually a platform that has a ton of open source models that you can use for free. So what this starts to do is teach you how you can utilize those different models to do things like text classification, image classification, all different kinds of machine learning tasks where you're not building the machine learning model yourself, but you're taking it from Hugging Face, you're combining it into some type of pipeline, you're passing in the correct type of data, and then you're getting a response back. There's actually quite a few things in here that are pretty interesting. So for example, if I go into here, I'll just show you a few examples of kind of how it's structured. So if we look here, you can see we have grammatical correctness, tokenization, using auto classes, extracting text with PyPDF, building a Q&A pipeline. And if I just go into maybe one of the examples here, okay, let's go next to the next video. You can see actually this one is just classification. Let's go into one that's coding. You can see that you're actually pulling in, pre-trained models, you're using a tokenizer to tokenize text, and you have to go through these exercises yourself and pass all of the different submissions. And of course, they get more complicated as you go through the course. So that's kind of the basics on Hugging Face. Let's go back to the course content. Okay, now after Hugging Face, it moves to LLM Ops. Now this section is not super detailed, it's more kind of a high level explanation as opposed to actually getting into like Docker and Kubernetes and the DevOps stuff that you would do in LLM Ops, but it gives you some information on what LLM Ops actually is, how it differs from ML Ops, because these are two kind of separate categories, and explains things like the development phase, the operational phase, and different things you want to consider when you're picking models or picking a database, or should you go with an open source model or a closed source model, should you fine tune a model, and gives you kind of some working understanding as you start moving into some more complex topics in the course. Next, developing AI systems with the OpenAI API. So this is where we're kind of combining things like Hugging Face as well as OpenAI and building some larger applications. This is where it starts to get a little bit more complicated and picks up in terms of kind of the speed at which you're learning. Then we move to embeddings, where we start getting into vector databases, talking about RAG, and building practical applications with AI. If you're not familiar with RAG, this is retrieval augmented generation, and this is a really popular technique. It's used like almost all the time now by AI engineers to be able to take large pieces of data like a database or a text document, feed it into an LLM, get relevant information from it, and then give you a response that's based in facts. So it starts going really in depth into what embedding models are, how you embed text, how you create vector databases. Again, there's another project. And then we start getting into other types of databases, because this one I believe uses like ChromaDB. And then we start looking at Pinecone, which is a little bit more advanced. It's just another type of database. I'm not going to go into it too much. Then we get into software engineering principles in Python and developing LLM applications with LangChain, where we start again combining these, creating some more in-depth chains that are a little bit more complicated, have AI agents, have tool calling, and really kind of building something that's a bit more advanced than simply triggering an API or simply using a Hugging Face kind of transformer or pre-trained model. Now, I'm not going to go through every single section extremely in depth, but generally speaking, I felt that this was a really strong kind of introduction to AI engineering, especially at the price point of like $13 to $20 per month, depending on how you pay this. And while I don't feel like you would be a complete AI engineer when finishing this course, it at least gives you a lot of those core topics and a lot of that understanding to be able to very easily branch off, work on your own projects, and learn things that are a little bit more complex. And I believe DataCamp actually has some tracks that are beyond this that you can take afterwards that go into some more advanced, because for example, things like LLM concepts, it is just concepts, right? It's not actually teaching you like all of the Docker, Kubernetes, and some other things that you'd probably want to learn. But generally speaking, I think you would be very well set up to then go on to the more advanced topics, which would help you get employed. Okay, so that's the high level roadmap. It progresses very well. At the beginning, I will say that it is a little bit slow. If you're someone who's a bit more advanced like me, you're probably gonna find yourself skipping through a few of the lessons because it may teach you some things that you've already done before, like I've already worked with the OpenAI API, for example. But I wanna show you how the course kind of progresses, because this is what I like about DataCamp compared to a lot of other course platforms out there. So if I click into one of the lessons here, you can see the full outline up here, which is always nice. They have this XP thing, which I don't really find that valuable, but whatever. They have like kind of some AI chat, they have the transcript, and then all of the videos that you see here are between like 3 to 5 minutes long. So what I like is that you're learning a pretty quick concept. You're kind of getting information. It has like lots of charts and graphs and whatever the PowerPoint slides that they have going on here. So it's very visual and easy to understand. And then as soon as you kind of have grasped the concept from this presentation or whatever they have, you immediately go into some kind of exercise where you actually need to answer a question or you have to write some code. So you have 4 or 5 minutes of learning where you're kind of watching this. I was watching a lot of the videos in like 1.5 or 2x speed. The instructors are different for all of the courses, but it's very consistent in terms of the structuring. And then you just immediately get tested. So you're spending probably 80% of your time in an environment where you're writing code, you're doing exercises, you have to look back at the video, you have to find whatever the result was. So you're actually being challenged and you kind of have this interactive learning platform, which is a lot more effective for keeping the concepts and retaining the information compared to just watching like 20 or 30 minute long videos. So it's really focused around this kind of like interactive cloud-based environment, which you can see here, where you can run the code, you can submit the answer, right? And you can get hints and see what it is that you're supposed to do. So I'm just sharing that with you because that's the learning style that I personally like and that I find is the most effective. And all of the different kind of sub-courses or modules all follow that. So you'll see like wherever it shows this little code block, that's a coding exercise. And then you'll see a few videos here. In this one, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 videos. The rest are exercises. So you're spending most of your time in that code editor environment, which is where I find the learning actually happens. Okay, so that's the overall kind of structure and how the course works. Now I will mention that there is also a certification that you can do afterwards. They have a bunch actually on DataCamp, and this is gonna be like a timed proctored exam where you actually have to go through, answer all of these questions. I haven't actually done this certification yet, so I can't speak to how difficult it is, but I like that they have those, and then of course you can add it on your LinkedIn, put it on your resume, etc. Just wanna mention they do have that available. Okay, now I wanna give you my kind of honest review of this, right? So first, the roadmap itself, I do feel like is really solid. Like I mentioned, it's really good for people that already know core Python and that are a little bit past beginners and just want to start dabbling into AI engineering. Now, I don't feel that this covers everything that you would need to know to become an AI engineer. However, I think it's a really good start. I think if you get through this, then it's going to give you some really solid context, which like I mentioned, is going to make it way easier to go into the more advanced topics that you would need to actually land a job. And this gets you probably halfway there, which I think is a good starting point. And again, I felt even as an experienced engineer, I learned a lot going through this. Now, what I will say is that there are a few sections here, for example, like the LM ops concepts, that I wish were a little bit more detailed. I know it's meant to be kind of high level and not overwhelm you with information, but I wish that we actually looked at some examples of deployments. We did, a quick Docker container. We actually deployed something out, because I don't find it's that useful just to have the theory. I think it's better if we actually dive in and do some of the exercises, because this one was not super detailed. I will also say, like I mentioned before, it is a little bit slow at the beginning, so there are a lot of kind of repetitive things that it's getting you to do, and then it increases in difficulty pretty sharply, fairly fast. So So that is one thing to keep in mind, that it's going to feel probably pretty easy at the beginning. And then as soon as you kind of get over here to where we start talking about embeddings and vector databases, it does increase quite a bit in difficulty, not meaning you can't follow along, but it is just kind of a stark contrast from the start of the course. Other than that, the projects are quite good. I wish they had another project at the end just to wrap everything up and combined a lot of the topics and maybe give us something a little bit more complex. But that's overall kind of my review and feedback for this roadmap. So anyways, guys, that's going to wrap up this video. I totally understand if you watch this and you think I'm completely biased because I work with DataCamp, but I'm genuinely trying to give you my honest review of this. I spent a lot of time going through the course content. You can see I've completed it all here just so that I can give you an honest, genuine review of the platform. It's not perfect. They didn't do everything 100%. Again, there's a few negatives here. And like I said, this isn't going to completely make you an AI engineer. But if you are looking for a really affordable, great place to start that's designed, again, for people that already know that core Python, this is one of the best resources that I've found. I have personally tested and tried it, and I can say that it is very high quality and goes through a lot of the content in a way that's very digestible and, again, interactive to learn, which is why I'm recommending it, and I don't think you would regret checking it out. So anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.